guys, what's up? I hope that you are all doing well. In today's episode, I'm just going to speak whatever is coming up for me. I just finished presenting at Penn State. Um, we had this amazing conversation about creativity and freedom and how my initial spiritual awakening experience led me to create my major in college. How those different kinds of changes in my life led me to where I am today. And if you guys don't know, I just realized I had these headphones in by looking at myself on the screen. But if you guys are interested in hearing more about my journey and my experience, then please make sure that you listen to some of my earlier episodes. I have an episode called Dreaming in Uncertain Circumstances where I kind of talk about my journey. There's two parts to it. I also have another episode as well about creativity and how you can start cultivating a fulfilling practice of expressing yourself creatively. So I absolutely recommend that you guys check that out. And as I was finishing up my presentation for the class today, I realized that the first thing that I did was I started thinking about all the different kinds of things that I feel like I could change, or I started thinking about things that I wish maybe I would have said, and maybe things could have gone better. And just that process, led me to get to this moment where I had to take a deep breath and I had to recenter myself and remember this is something to celebrate. How often do we do this where we finally hit a big goal? And the first thing that we do is we criticize ourselves, or we immediately start reflecting on the experience instead of finding ways to celebrate where we are, finding ways to celebrate the fact that we've just hit this goal, whether it's a big or a small goal. It really doesn't matter what kind of goal it is. But I would argue that we do this with so many things in our lives. We work so hard for something and we focus all of our energy on that so much that we forget that it's so important for us to drop down, be in the present moment, and celebrate ourselves for what we've been able to accomplish. And sometimes just the process of celebrating something for yourself is enough to get your energy back in balance. And this is a big thing for me in my life right now, because I'm shifting myself back into balance. I've been having so much stuff going on in terms of my health, figuring out what I'm going to do in terms of future career goals and things like that. And so I'm going to use this experience as a way to encourage you all as well, to make sure that you do something today to celebrate yourself, celebrate the different kinds of things that you've committed yourself to doing this year, whether that was, listening to your intuition more, or focusing on your purpose, whatever those things are. I want you to take some time to make sure that you really celebrate that for yourself today. Another thing that I want to talk to you guys about as well is this experience that I have been really trying my best to deal with. And it's when you get signs about something and it doesn't come true. Now, first of all, let me just say, I have encountered this so many different times in my life about different things where you want something to happen so bad in your life and you ask for signs about that thing happening, and you say God, if this specific thing is going to happen, I would love it if you could send me a sign. And so when you're picking what sign you want, you're asking for I don't know, let me see a orange flower, or some kind of bird or something like that, right? So that's your sign. And then you end up seeing that sign, but then the event or whatever thing was that you asked about did not happen. So there's a couple things that I need to say about this topic. So the first is, sometimes you are going to ask for things and it's not going to happen at the time when you want it to happen. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's like when we want something so bad, we forget that we need to be patient. And sometimes we forget that we're not really ready for that thing to show up in our lives at the time when we're asking for it most. When you're feeling that desperate about something and you're in this desperation energy, you're not allowing yourself to ground, to fully receive what it is that you need. And you're always going to receive things when you're in a more calm, grounded, centered state. So that's the first thing. The second thing, sometimes you can ask for certain things and it really feels like kind of sucky, like on the receiving end. When you realize that the thing that you asked about, you got the sign for it, it never happened, and maybe it's never going to happen. And the reason why you got the sign was because it was just God and your angels, your spirit guides, whoever you're praying to, they're letting you know that they heard you, that they're listening to you. I've had this happen so many times. Like I've even had this happen like with an apartment thing. Like I remember one time I asked like God, if I'm going to be able to secure this apartment, like please send me a sign. And like I saw the sign, but like I didn't secure the apartment, right? So when these things happen, we tend to get into these periods where we start to doubt and we start to question, is God real? Is what we know to be true? It's like we go through this period of cognitive dissonance. And that just means that, when something that we believed so deeply is presented to us to be untrue, now we start trying to rework everything in our minds. We start to try to figure out, like, if this one thing isn't true, then oh my God, what if none of it is true? And if nothing is true, then who am I? What do I believe? Is God real? Are angels real? Was I ever getting signs? Am I a crazy person? Like, I have literally gone over this so many times at different periods in my life. And my understanding that I've been able to grab out of it at this point is a lot of these experiences happen because they allow us to have opportunities to better listen to ourselves, to shift back into our intuition. They give us opportunities to figure out what it is that we truly believe. Like, I can't think of anything really where we believe in something so wholeheartedly that when it's not challenged, like that is this huge, big, important thing. Usually we are going to feel challenged about something, especially if it's something that's super important to us, or it's something that has a lot of meaning and purpose in our lives. And what I want to say to that is, just because one thing didn't happen in your life, just because you may have been wrong about one area of your life or one specific thing, it doesn't mean that you're wrong about everything else about spirituality. Like, spirituality is a practice. Yes, there are certain tools, there are certain learnings, there are certain concepts that you can grasp that are absolutely true. However, with that being said, everything in spirituality is meant to be experiential. Like, the way that you experience your truth is not going to be the same way that someone else experiences it. For example, I just told you guys about my experience with signs and things like that. Like, the way that you guys experience getting signs is going to look different. Like, maybe some of you guys are getting numbers about certain things. Maybe you've gotten signs through maybe someone answered your prayer in some way or something like that. It doesn't mean that everything that you've believed up until this point in your life is invalid, but that is how it feels when something that you believe so deeply just doesn't happen. And I also want to state here too, there's also the possibility that that thing could happen, but it's just not happening right now. So sometimes we can like get to this point where we're like, well, holy shit, like if it's not going to happen, then what am I meant to believe? And here's what I'm going to leave you with. I want you to take a second to really drop down. And I want you to think about, I want you guys to go through this exercise where you list out the things right now that you're struggling with in terms of your beliefs. Like maybe the things that you've believed for a really long time and now you're questioning, I want you to write those things down. And I want you to really take a second to access your intuition. And you can always do that by dropping down and taking a couple of deep breaths. Like that's what I was talking about today. And when I did my Penn State thing. And when you access your intuition, I want you to really think about, like, what is your intuition telling you about this belief? What does this indicate to you? And it's okay if you decide that you want to shift some of your beliefs from there. Like, just because you've believed something for a really long time doesn't mean that you're obligated to believe that thing for the rest of your life. And sometimes, guess what? You might have experiences like the one that I described in this episode where what you believe just like doesn't happen, and maybe it's that way because it's giving you an opportunity to shift your belief. Like, it's showing you what reality is, it's showing you what is true, and maybe what you've believed up until this point isn't, and it's okay to be wrong. Like, why do we place so much pressure on ourselves to have to be right about every fucking thing? Like, that is not the point. Like, when I think about people who are involved in spirituality, or I think about certain leaders, I mean, I've seen this so many times. We place so much pressure on ourselves to feel like we have to know everything. We have to know the exact plan of how everything is going to work out. You have to know the how, but you're never going to know the exact how when working towards something. Like, that's not the way that life is meant to be either. And if it was, I mean, think about how much fun we'd be losing in our experiences. Like, there's a certain amount of fun and opportunities that you have to celebrate and experience when you don't exactly know how things are going to pan out. That's how you self-discover. That's how you get to this point where you can ask yourself the deep questions and figure out the deepest parts of your soul. Like, that comes from asking questions and self-discovery, but you're not allowing yourself to have the space to self-discover when you're so focused on figuring out the answer to every single thing in your life. And you're not meant to know what those things are, and you're not going to. And when you are in those states, I guarantee you, I promise you, you're going to have experiences like the one that I'm talking about in this episode, where things don't happen the way that you expect them to. And then you get to this point where you're like, well, is it ever going to happen? And if you're at the point in your life where, you know what, like, it feels like everything's crumbling right now, maybe you just got news about something really bad in your life, and or maybe you thought something was going to happen and like it didn't. Like, I want you to know, it doesn't mean that you're a stupid person. It doesn't mean that your thoughts are silly, or that God's not real, or none of this stuff in spirituality is real. Like, that's not true. Like, God is real. This stuff still exists. It's just sometimes we think certain things that maybe may not be true. And the biggest one that I can think about in this moment as I'm speaking and I'm hearing myself say these words out loud to you guys is I'm thinking about relationships. Like, how many times does this happen where people have been in relationships, and like relationships end, and people are like, oh my God, like, I felt that was my soulmate. Like, this happens literally all the time. And you know, I've seen this happen where people beat themselves up over this, and they start thinking like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I was wrong. God must not exist. Like, what was the point of a relationship if it's not, like, we're not going to end up together? And everything in your life has its own place. Everything in your life has its own moment, and every moment is meant to teach you something that you can carry with you throughout the rest of your life so that you can have all the things that you want. Now, that may feel kind of sucky a little bit hearing this, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like, endings are not always a bad thing. Like, endings can be really huge gifts for you in your life. Like, when something ends, then you know something else amazing has an opportunity to start. And maybe that thing couldn't start until you had that ending. So I really want you guys to start seeing some ways that you can shift and reframe your idea of an ending, or how many times has this happened where we wanted like a job opportunity and maybe we didn't get it, and so we start thinking like, oh my God, am I on the wrong path? Am I doing the wrong thing? And No, maybe that experience happened because there was something that you were meant to learn by being in that, by having the experience of, I don't know, like learning a couple of things that you thought were going to help you with like your job interview or something like that. Like maybe it turns out that the stuff that you learned and you were reading about, you realize you have this new passion that you never discovered before. And now that new passion leads you into your purpose, and that leads you into creating this fulfilling business where you can change people's lives. Like there's so many opportunities for you to grow and to succeed. And sometimes we take the magic and the power out of our experiences by trying to figure out the how on everything. And we're not meant to know the how. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that. And if you're struggling with like figuring out your life, like, look, it's all good. And you can still work on your goals, but everything doesn't have to be so perfectly planned. Like strategy is really good, clarity is amazing, but I just want you to be aware on your journey of figuring out what it is that you want. You're not going to know every single thing, and some things you're not meant to know until certain times, and some things you're not going to know until you start experiencing more. Like the more experiences you have in figuring out your journey and your path, the more that you will become enlightened. Even if you have some of these, like say if you're really excited about something and you go on your way to experience it and it turns out poorly for you, just know it's not like that experience was invaluable. There are still things that you can take from that experience with you for the rest of your life. And every direction that you go in is going to lead you somewhere. So I just want you guys to, have hope and know that the things that you want can still happen. They just might happen a little bit differently than what you initially thought. And that's okay too. Like you have to remember that God has your best interests at heart, and your guides, your angels, everyone is there for you. They're always looking out for you, making sure that you have every single thing that you need. And they're never going to lead you somewhere where it's like, you're just kind of like hung out to dry and they're not watching over you. So I just wanted to let you guys know that these feelings do not last forever. I'm telling you, like I've literally have gone through this so many times in my life. And I had this same period like even a couple of days ago. And it's funny, like I said, like we think that these people who are really like spiritual and things like that, like they don't have these moments. Like they do. They just don't talk about them. And that's why I show up here and share these things with you guys, so like I'm being really transparent, and so that you understand like you can have the things that you want, and it comes with time, and it takes you being able to build these things. And these are the experiences that happen on the journey of building those things, but they're still going to lead you to where you need to be. So I just want you guys to try your best, because that's all you can do. And I'm very grateful that you guys listened to this episode. I really had no idea like what I really wanted to talk about. I just wanted to make sure I shared whatever was coming up. If you guys need any help with anything, please reach out to me through my website, biancaward.com. I am a certified life and spiritual coach. I'd love to help you on your journey of creating the life that you envision for yourself. If you're in need of finding more clarity, or you're just trying to find ways to focus more on your soul and just building the relationships that you're envisioning for yourself, I'd love to help you on that journey. And, guys, please make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. If you're on Apple, please leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to my channel, because I do post a new video every single week. I'm grateful you guys are here, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.